Meghan Markle. She claims to be 43% Nigerian and said she felt at home there. I bet she does. If you go far back enough, we were all black once. It feels very appropriate to be in the motherland, she said. Is that right? What does she know about Nigeria? You mean it's great to finally go somewhere where people haven't openly derided you because A, you've given them money via your charity, which was described as delinquent, and B, you haven't trashed their country yet. Good old safe Nigeria, hardly. It's a beautiful country, don't get me wrong. Having visited it myself, I know this. But I would say on balance, it's far more dangerous than the UK, although the way the UK is going, we won't be far behind. I'd be more worried about my safety there than the UK, a country that Meghan hates so much that she didn't even leave the confines of the Royal Lounge in Heathrow Airport, where it's reported that she met up with Harry to catch their onward flight to Nigeria, a place where you definitely need an armed guard. Watching them, I felt a sense of sadness the way they've treated the British people and indeed their own families, who were all completely in love with them at the start and could see the potential. The royal family welcomed Meghan into the fold. The taxpayer forked out millions for the wedding, only for them to go abroad and diss the nation that gave them the platform in the first place. Watching and reading the footage on Nigeria, I thought this is what it could have been. These two beautiful-looking people exerting soft power and promoting the United Kingdom, a country where, well, a country who loved Diana, by the way, Harry. But what sticks in my craw is that they are using the connection with royalty to garner attention. If they didn't have the titles, the interest would definitely wane. But my favourite bit, though, was when the Nigerians played Harry and Meghan the national anthem. Yes, that's right, God Save the King, which they had no choice but to stand up for and respect. Hilarious. The Nigerians aren't stupid. They're highly intelligent people, and they are a nation that respect family. It's also part of the Commonwealth, and they respect the King. And whilst the Sussexes' visit may look like a glossy masterstroke, the elephant in the room is this. If these two, and in particular Meghan, are so full of love and care so much, how on earth can they continue to clearly despise the people who gave them life, their families? Nobody's buying it. Well, if you just joined me, you're watching GBN America. I'm Nana Queer. Now, it's been said time and time again that Harry and Meghan's Nigerian tour shows a struggle to maintain relevance in their post-royal existence. So joining me now is Lee Cohen, giving the US perspective on this. Lee, welcome. Do you think that their actions show a sense of sort of desperation as they kind of attempt to forge a new identity in the shadow of their past lives?
Well, indeed, Nana, I believe that the Sussexes are casting about for any relevance, and they keep changing their branding and changing so many things and selling jam. Are any of these things really working? And now they've taken this opportunity to go on a quasi-royal tour in representation not of any nation, but in representation of their favorite subject themselves.
Mm-mm. And, you know, the thing is, whilst, you know, all the pictures and the coverage looks great, and, you know, I kind of felt a sense of nostalgia. I thought this would be wonderful. If you looked at it and didn't know the backstory, you'd think how amazing this is. But unfortunately, you can't wipe the backstory. And I know for sure that the fact that the national anthem was played whilst they were there, I mean, that was done. That was a masterstroke. That was hilarious, because clearly the Nigerians respect the British royal family.
No, there's great irony in what you just said. But if I were British, and I'm not, I'm a third party, I would be outraged because the Sussexes only officially represent themselves, not the British nation. They are celebrities and social media influencers, a far cry from being the statesman that this quasi-royal tour gives a whiff of. And once again, as an American third party, Nana, I find it incredibly disrespectful to the British people that anyone praise or celebrate their efforts in Nigeria or anywhere of a couple who has so insulted the British people.
Yeah, it's... You know, I just look at it and I think, I want to be happy. I want to have, you know, joy for them. The kind of things they were saying about the people in this country, the way they've kind of pitched us as though we're all racist, which is how I feel. That's how I feel from the way they've behaved. As though they didn't understand that we actually were really joyous and that we celebrated Meghan's mixed heritage, which was a wonderful thing. So it is sad. I do feel I think we just feel disappointed, but then I suppose they probably think, well, it's not my job to keep you happy, Nana, so we'll do what we want, which is fine, but then don't slag off the royal family. Now, one of the reasons they went to Nigeria was to one of the charities, the Archwell Foundation. I think they've given one of these charities £20,000, and we saw a clip of them at that place, or speaking to people who represent that charity. Interestingly, though, the charity was reported as being delinquent. What does that mean, Lee?
Well, what it means is that it's clear that Harry and Meghan have to get their house and their affairs in order. Filing tax returns is a serious business. And with the Archwell Foundation delinquency that you've just mentioned, and other scandals, including the African Parks Organization and the alleged human rights abuses, the issues with Harry's visa in the United States, with their work ethic that seems to have left a bad taste in Hollywood, there seems to be a lot of sloppiness and unprofessionalism about them that if they had remained in the royal family, this would have been managed much better.
And of course, I read somewhere that it was about a cheque, as in a cheque, not as in a check, but a cheque. So that'll be a financial cheque that may or may not have been received. So this is to do with money again, and it looks sloppy, it looks disorganised, it looks disingenuous, really. It is what I'm getting to. But then Harry did come to the UK. He came for the 10-year celebration for Invictus, but he never saw his dad. Now, there was controversy as to whether he was invited to come here to see his dad, but it turns out, as far as reports are to be believed, if they are to be believed, which I think they clearly are, that he was given permission to come and stay at one of the royal residences, but chose to stay in a hotel.
Well, as you know, the Sussexes are well known to have a strange relationship with the truth. And the king is, by all indications, a sincere, loving, and long-suffering father. So in any variance of accounts of this story, one is naturally skeptical of any information leaking from the pseudo-court in Montecito, which is where, the news that the king was too busy emanated from.
Yeah, well, and whilst in Nigeria and other places I don't think they maybe follow as closely as we do here in the UK and the States. But in the States, it sounds like they're not being received well at all in Hollywood.
Well, to my way of thinking, the Nigeria tour was a great success, Nana, because it made clear a very necessary and often misunderstood fact, especially among my countrymen on this side of the Atlantic, that Harry and Meghan no longer occupy the status that they stepped back from, and they have become mere celebrities and media influencers rather than statesmen, which is what they're trying to portray. They're grasping for any sort of lost status that they themselves chose to give up back in 2020.
It does seem madness, and obviously Harry now still has the issues with his visa. That's not been fully exposed yet. We don't know the details. Does anything else come to light?
Well, it appears, Nana, with the visa situation, that there's been some sort of cover-up by the Biden administration that seems to be sympathetic to Harry. Either Prince Harry didn't disclose his extensive drug use on his visa, or the Biden administration gave him special treatment as a person of privilege. Strangely, Harry bragged about his drug use famously in his memoir Spare, which adds something terribly interesting into the mix here. But somehow this did not disqualify him through the visa application. where it likely would have others. Either way, something stinks about this. And the U.S. think tank, the Heritage Foundation, and Mr. Niall Gardner over there is doing exceptional work of shining the light on this on behalf of the American people, because this is an issue that affects us all. And it's terribly disrespectful to immigrants who come to the United States in the legal way and do everything the proper way, and don't seek special treatments or special waivers or anything like that.
Well, it would certainly set out an example if they were to be made an example of. But then, of course, if Donald Trump gets into power, which it is looking likely, they're trying everything, aren't they? They literally are. I mean, they're trying the Stormy Daniels thing, and now they're trying to put him in jail, which he could probably still win the election from jail and then run the thing from jail. But, yeah, I don't think Trump will let them get away with that if that is the case.
No, it's just unconscionable how they're weaponizing the justice system against Trump, because Biden is such a weak candidate. Biden couldn't win a game of hopscotch, let alone based upon his achievements or non-achievements. And he's been famously the most to Britain, the most disrespectful president in recent memory. So if Trump gets in, Harry better watch it. But, one more thing I'd like to say is that I wrote in an article last year that was much appreciated in Britain that perhaps Britain has seen the back of Meghan Markle. And in fact, I never suspected that that she would actually step foot in Britain, but it would only be in the airport lounge.
Isn't it just? Lee Cohen, thank you so much for talking to me. Always a pleasure. That is, of course, the brilliant Lee Cohen. Royal commentator Lee Cohen joining me there. Right, let's get back to that non-royal Nigerian tour. After much speculation over whether the Duchess of Sussex would join the Duke on his recent trip to England, we all know how she flew solo from LA to touch foot on British soil, albeit briefly, at having flown without their two children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. She met with the Duke in the Windsor suite at the Heathrow airport before the couple jetted out to Nigeria. Now, the Duke and Duchess were seated in the first-class section of a Boeing 777 to Abuja International Airport. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were kept apart from other passengers by a curtain, and upon arrival at the airport in Abuja, they were met by Nigerian officials and then taken onto a blacked-out minibus. But joining me now is Maureen Callaghan, a columnist for the Daily Mail Online. Maureen, have we forgotten? This was meant to be Harry's show. I mean, it was the 10th anniversary of the Invictus, but why was this tour timed to coincide with Invictus? Does Meghan always feel the need to be the centre of attention?
This trip, first of all, the thing that you just mentioned, Anna, about the, flying commercial and the curtain being drawn and the blacked out, this is a couple who present themselves regularly as icons of social justice, of equity, fairness, kindness. So all of this, that from the very moment they begin this tour, they're always on the wrong foot. And yes, this was the Meghan Markle show. I feel like Invictus was clearly a fig leaf for sort of, just a narcissistic hit. So this is one of the things that really occurred to me while watching this play out. Do you recall during the royal tour that Harry and Meghan did of Australia in 2018, the report that Meghan said more than once under her breath, "I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this."
Yes, I do recall that.
Right? So one of the animating factors of Megxit was supposedly the disdain these two had for doing what they considered, low-level, non-glamorous ceremonial duties. Walkabouts, ribbon cuttings, speeches in drab rooms, and the like. It looks like walkabouts are looking pretty good to Meghan Markle right about now.
It does indeed. And do you know what my favourite bit of this tour was? Because obviously the Nigerians are very polite and they received them very, professionally and very warmly.
Mm-hmm.
But I just couldn't help thinking that the person who managed to sort of program in the British national anthem for everybody to stand, which would include Harry and Meghan, was thinking, oh, this will be interesting. I don't know whether you saw that, but they played the national anthem and, of course, they had to stand, God Save the King. Yes.
Amazing. Beautiful touch. Beautiful touch. I also don't know if you caught this, but Meghan called Nigeria her motherland.
Yes.
She called it my country. This is hours after her husband was sort of sent packing during his brief trip to Britain. His father refused to see him. His brother refused to see him. His formerly beloved sister-in-law refused to see him. Meghan then goes and speaks at a women's conference in which she compliments the Nigerian people under the guise of really complimenting herself. So she says, I don't know if you're aware of this, but on her since canceled flop podcast Archetypes, she told her listeners that she took a DNA test and is 43% Nigerian. So she goes on to tell this group of people that everywhere she's been going during this non-royal tour, people have said to her, oh my goodness, we were not surprised at all to hear that you are Nigerian, because Nigerian women are brave, courageous, resilient, beautiful. So this is all vintage Meghan Markle, right? Me, 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 me. Have I told you about me and how wonderful I am? And as she's going on regaling the Nigerian women and herself with compliments and fulsome praise, there's not a word uttered when it comes to strength, resilience, bravery about either her father-in-law, the king, or Kate Middleton, both undergoing cancer treatments with really utmost dignity and a real sense of propriety, and never really making what they're going through about themselves, keeping in the forefront that they are servants of the British people. So the contrast could not be more stark. And the Markles really cannot get out of their own way, ever.
I think the bit that really I think people will continue to look at, because even when you look, you think, oh, this is lovely. They're being so nice and so open and they seem so warm and friendly. And this is what they purport to be ambassadors for. But yet, as you mentioned, her own father, who is seriously ill and has been through the wars. And I think he what did he do? He did something, he sold a story, but then he didn't really, because he was sort of tricked and da-da-da-da. She's sold out so much anyway. How dare she actually think that she's far better? She's the same as she's punishing him for this. You would think that if she wants to look like she's caring and giving and kind, the very least she would do is see her father. And I think that is the elephant in the room. You can't pretend to be all of those things and then be so hard-hearted towards your own family members. It just doesn't sit well.
No, you're absolutely right, Nana. It's really the bedrock of her fundamental hypocrisy. These two have sold out Harry's family multiple times through multiple high-profile platforms. And it only ever serves to knock them down further and further. Here in the US, last week was a huge week. We had the Met Gala, and there were no shortage of starlets on that red carpet. People, social media influencers. Year after year, one very significant person is missing from that red carpet, and that would be Meghan Markle. And here in the US, nobody thinks for a moment that Anna Wintour, who is an avowed monarchist, would have submitted an invitation, Montecito way. Similarly, Vogue did an incredible write-up right before the gala of, I think you'll appreciate this, of a dinner that Gwyneth Paltrow hosted at her Montecito estate. So a neighbor of Harry and Meghan, a collaboration with Loro Piana and Goop. And among her guest list was Oprah Winfrey and Ted Sarandos. So here's Meghan attempting to get her little lifestyle brand off the ground. Goop is clearly a model for her. Oprah, who conducted that very first interview, that bombshell interview that aired all over the world, in which Meghan, we now know, falsely claimed there were royal racists who made her so uncomfortable she had no option but to flee. Ted Sarandos, who cut those two a check for a reported $100 million, has since canceled their docuseries, has given Meghan a dubious cooking show. They're on the guest list at Gwyneth Paltrow's Montecito estate, and Meghan Markle is not there. And the Vogue write-up had all these little like winks and nods of, shade thrown her way. They called Montecito, quote unquote, the American Riviera. It was all just little daggers like sheathed in there. It was great. And it's further proof to any doubtful Briton that we here in America see Meghan Markle for exactly who she is.
Yeah, and you shouldn't think that the Nigerian people will fall for this either. I mean, yeah, you could be 43% Nigerian, but Nigerians are very good people in the main, and they care a lot about family. Family is a big thing in Nigeria. And like I said, people look at all this and they think, yeah, you could be all these things, but on the surface, it all looks great. But I just can't get over the lack of heart to not even see your own family. And, even Harry went to see his dad the moment he heard that Harry had cancer. So Harry he must be thinking, well, my wife hasn't even gone to see her dad. I don't get it. I don't know why they wouldn't. But what about Meghan Markle details love for chatty children in rare comments about Archie and Lilibet? So she's talking about her children now.
Well, yes, ostensibly, Nana, she's talking about her children. But again, it all comes back to Meghan Markle. So she tells her children of this exchange she had with her daughter, Princess Lilibet, before leaving for this Nigerian trip. And during this conversation, Lily, by the way, is not yet 3 years old. Lily is gazing at her mother and says to her mother, "Mama, I see myself in you." Meghan Markle tells this story with a straight face and then turns around and says to these Nigerian school children, "I want you to know that I see myself in all of you." What is the point of this trip, I ask you? What is the point of this trip? Meghan spent the entire time speaking about herself. And then on the other hand, I don't know if you saw this footage, but it's so laughable. It really just further diminishes Harry in the eyes, not just of the royals, but I think of the world. He's standing at attention as though he still holds his military honors and titles, as though he weren't stripped of them when he left, as if William had not been given the honor last week by Charles that was due to go to Harry. He's standing there at attention in plain clothes, reviewing Nigerian troops. It's laughable. It's an insult to the Nigerian people. These two are off cosplaying as though they're still royals when they've spent the past 4 to 5 years telling us how terrible it was to be royals.
And as Harry knows, you don't reveal your kill count, and he did that in Spare. And a lot of the people who he worked alongside were not happy about that. So it's like he betrayed the people who protected him whilst he was there. Yeah, OK, he does Invictus. But even that ended up being all about something else and not about the games. And it just, I don't know, I'm concerned about the way things are going here with these two. But of course, William William also did some royal tours and things, didn't he? William has also been working whilst all the focus has been on Harry and Meghan.
What's so interesting about this is if they had just been able to think a few steps ahead, they're not long-term thinkers. They're not really strategic thinkers. They play checkers all the time, right? So they're always thinking just one move ahead. No one could have foreseen what has happened now with a slimmed down monarchy, an ailing king, Kate Middleton undergoing treatment for cancer. Really, the bulk of the workload has fallen on William. But had they just played ball and just accepted the rampant goodwill they were experiencing pre the wedding, immediately post the wedding, Meghan would have found herself exactly where she wishes to be. She would have been front and center. It would have been Meghan Markle on the red carpet at, say, like the next Top Gun premiere, being escorted by Tom Cruise. It would have been Meghan Markle in the crown jewels, sitting front row at the BAFTAs, experiencing that A-level stardom that eluded her as a working actress in basic cable here in America.
She would have jumped across the sort of Hollywood sign that is full of air and almost this simplistic kind of thing that evaporates in time. So there's the stardom. She would have eviscerated that and she would have been above it. And she couldn't see it, which is very sad. But very quickly, Prince Harry is in tears because the King bestows a military honour on Prince William. So everything, he's losing all of it, isn't he?
He's losing all of it. It still seems that he's not quite getting the lesson that actions have consequences. And, I think that if they can't get a hold of themselves, it seems as though when William becomes king, there is a very real possibility he would do what Charles won't, which is strip them of their titles to just render them completely toothless.
Yeah, that is exactly what I think he should do. A lot of British people want him to do that, but he won't. But I think that William will. Maureen, lovely to talk to you. That's Maureen Callahan. Lovely to talk to her. Really
Thanks,
fun
Anna.
Conversation. Thank you so much, Maureen. That was Maureen Callahan. This is GBN America. I'm Nana Akweer. If you want to find out more, go to gbnews.com/America.